Hello and welcome to Take This TV, the television book club podcast where each week we talk about an episode or two of our favorite shows. We talk about them with our friends, the fandom. Do you? Oh,
Who's that?
what? That's you. Oh, it's you. Oh man, I'm Carmen Askernes, and I'm joined as always by the amazing Kimberly Woods. Hello.
Hello, hot potatoes.
This season we're watching Fallout.
And today we're on episode 6. It's called The Trap. The description? What happens when the ranchers have more power than the sheriff?
We had a lot to say with this episode.
Did a lot to say. And we learned a whole lot more about Maximus. Poor sweet Maximus. We knew him and Lucy were sheltered, but man, oh man, that scene when he was like, "You smell good," and she was like, "Sex?" And he's like, "I don't know, my dick might explode."
He's like, it happens to some of the guys.
Not me, of course. Oh my god, that scene was comedy gold.
That was hilarious.
It was really, really good.
Like, come on, Maximus, say yes. Say yes.
I love how his voice also seemed to get even more nasally when he was like, "Well, not me, of course."
You don't have
And
anything
Precious
to worry
Lucy is just like, "Okie dokie."
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pressure you.
Just lays down. Is like, all right, whatever.
Yeah. He's conflicted. He's like, "But I'm a knight. we can't have sex.
I'm a brotherhood knight. We can't." Yeah. I would have been like, I don't see the brotherhood around here, so
Yeah. I'm like, you've already abandoned some of the brotherhood qualities, and so
it's interesting that he still thinks of himself that way, even though he knows that he betrayed them and he took on the mantle of Knight Titus, and that his squire Thaddeus is out there. And I mean, we don't know how long it's been, so Thaddeus might have snitched already. So he might not even. He might be on the outs with the Brotherhood. We don't know.
We don't know yet. But for now, we were in Vault 4. Carmen, you're right. 4, not A. I was guessing from the reflection. Makes so much more sense. Which, in the beginning of the episode, we get this ad that Cooper's done for the vaults, and he's in Vault 4 in the ad.
He is. And we see that he did one commercial in the previous episode, but we see at this point he's kind of like the spokesperson for Vault-Tec now, and he's pretty well off because of it. And it I love when shows and stuff incorporate all the corpo speak of people being like, "Oh, let's circle back" and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, oh, it's so dumb. I love it. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where it's like a language now. It's just all the stupid corpo speak. But I love that they incorporated it and Cooper hates it. But his wife is essentially trying to get him good with the folks who are kind of running things with management, and try to give them a spot in one of the good vaults. Yep. I thought that was really interesting because we sort of got an idea before of her role in Hollywood, and it seemed more like an assistant role, but it seems like with Vault-Tec she's more in a position of power.
Mm-hmm. And she's moved up, we find out, because at some point even Cooper's like, "You have an assistant now?"
Yeah.
What's happening? But yeah, she seems desperate. She seems to know the secrets of Vault-Tec because she's saying the good vaults, first of all, and wanting to get Cooper and her daughter into this vault, and seems so desperate with whatever information she knows about this company.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I love that the episode had so much to say, and I just want to say it because I know it's not that kind of podcast, but I every time I like fiction and fantasy and all that kind of stuff, but every time that there's stuff that's retro stuff and it's has this 50 aesthetics or whatever, I'm always like, Black people would not even been in consideration for all that. And just because in the real world where we live, there's so many people who are trying to change and erase history, I just think that that's important to know that this is fiction, and if this was reality, it would not have been it would not have been as diverse as it was, but I
Yeah.
appreciate that the show fully embraces the fiction of like in this world, there are other issues and that's not necessarily something that's happening in this world. We also learned just in terms of like the world building and what's happening that the US is apparently at war with Russia. So maybe it seems like maybe the Cold War became an actual war at some point in this world, which I thought
Was
was
it
really
Russia here or
interesting.
is it China?
Oh, but they said the
Because
Reds, and so I assumed it was Russia,
yeah,
but
but I feel like in this alternative history, it's now like China,
oh, well, because they mentioned commies, and
potentially.
I was like, oh, it's like
Yeah.
the communist hunt back
Mhm.
in the oh geez, my history professor is disappointed somewhere. But back in the day,
Yeah,
when there was
yeah.
like the
I feel
communist scare
like
and all that.
I feel like they're, like, drawing parallels to that, but they're, like, now like, future problem might be China, so that's
Interesting.
who it might be against.
Yeah. But
But
I mean,
yeah,
I
same,
love
like,
that we get the
parallels and
background. Yeah.
undertones. Mhm.
I
Um
also think that it's interesting that when we are learning about the way that Vault-Tec works, we learned that like they were sort of supplying the power suits for the military because Cooper mentions when he served and he was fighting in the war, and they used some of the power suits
from
for like I
Westec.
guess from what so that's a
Yeah.
different company like a
Yeah, so
competitor.
Vault-Tec, because we learn it but from Bud, who's like, "I used to work at Westec and, develop the power suits before I came over here, and now I'm in HR R&D."
Which is gibberish. Human resources, research and development. What does that even mean?
I don't know, but he starts talking about the management theme because he's like, it comes down to one word, management. And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, no, it's all your fault. Oh, no."
Well, I have a theory actually, which because I thought that was really interesting because he was like the greatest weapon is time, and then it comes down to management, and I was like, what? And then by the end of the episode, jumping around when Lucy. By the way, spoilers. If you haven't watched the episode, we're gonna spoil everything. So should have said that up top. But
Yeah.
when Lucy discovers the pregnant women that they're keeping cryogenically frozen for some weird experiments that they're doing, I'm like, so they do have some kind of like cryo chamber, and we
Mhm.
learned that Moldaver was around back in the day when the ghoul was Cooper still, and so it's like there's unless she's immortal, there's like some kind of cryotech that they're using,
Yeah.
and so maybe that's what management means that like these people essentially get to live forever using the cryotech.
Maybe, but it's also interesting because we have that theme too, from Vault 31 where, people are writing on the outside of it, "Death to management." And a lot of the overseers are coming from Vault 31, so it's like where there's several of these, like, systems that had overseers, or when Barb is, like, so desperate to be in the good vault, she later mentions, like, it's the overseer vault,
Mm.
and it's like, okay, so is there one vault to rule them all? Or is there, like, several little systems and they have overseers? Or, is Vault 31 the main overseer vault, or is there a different one?
I
And
have a
that's just a
theory.
sample of one.
Okay, I have a wild theory. You ready for this? Vault
Here we go.
31. Here we go. Let's get on the crazy train.
Let's get into it.
Vault 31, and I think all the management vaults, everybody in those vaults, I feel like are cryogenically frozen. And then based on their hierarchy, whenever one of the vaults needs a new overseer, somebody's woken up to go be the overseer for that vault. And I think the plan was that whenever the repopulation happens, all of the people from the management vaults would be thawed out, and then they would take over as the leaders of the new world. And so I think that's kind of the plan of like we're gonna all the important people, all the leaders, all the wealthy people and powerful people are gonna be cryogenically frozen until the world gets made anew, and all the middle management, lower management people will have to come out in waves to make sure that they prepare the world for upper management to arrive. And we were talking last episode about like why are people writing in blood like death to management on the other
Yeah,
side, and I was thinking like maybe there were like people who were dying and they were trying to pass a message on to the people who come after them of like management is evil, death to management or something like that.
maybe.
So I don't know, but anyway, that's my wild theory.
I definitely agree with, like, the cryo chambers and probably the rich people being frozen in them. But if that's the case, because we find out that, Flame Mother
The Flame Mother.
Moldaver, whatever, who
Yeah.
was over 200 years old and must have also been frozen. She was on the opposite side of Vault-Tec. She was like running the campaign against Vault-Tec.
Oh,
So
I
how
have a
did she
theory about that
survive
too. I
if
feel
she was?
like I feel like she's a mole in the like Hollywood Forever group. I feel like Vault-Tec or whoever, either she's a mole or she flips on them at some point, because I feel like uh what's it called? Moldaver probably is working for someone, or either is working for someone or is a part of the management team in the past, and like is reporting on what's happening. Because it didn't seem like she was the leader. It just seemed like she was just like a person that was part of it.
Maybe. I was
So I
expecting
don't
her
know.
to be the leader, though, when he said that. When, like, he was recognizing. She looks different when he saw the wanted poster on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like she becomes the leader, maybe. I don't know.
I also think that like when we see the ghoul and his daughter running from the bombs when the bombs drop, it seems like right now when he's going to the meetings, it seems like he's really wealthy, he's really well off, but it seems like he's like really down on his luck, and he might be a single parent at that point.
Well, we
So
also, like, find out that he starts losing jobs.
mhm.
Like, he had all this money from all his movies, and he was this big celebrity. And then because he took on these Vault-Tec ads for his wife, people are boycotting him, like, as a stance, because they're against what Vault-Tec stands for, which is the end of the world. And even his buddy, I can't remember his name, who's been in some movies with him,
The
who
guy who's
invites him to the
essentially the
meeting.
voice. Yeah.
Well, no, not the guy who's the voice. The other guy,
The one.
Charles
Oh,
Whiteknife,
Charles. Yeah.
who brings up the theme of the episode about cattle ranchers are in charge. You know, if Vault-Tec's in charge, they're not going to want peace. They're going to want it to be the end of the world so they can make money. Come to this
Fiduciary
meeting.
responsibility.
Yeah, fiduciary responsibility. Yeah, he's the one that like invites him to that meeting about. I lost my train of thought now, Carmen.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
That's my bad.
Like, wait, what was my point? I can't remember. Except that, yeah, Charles is the one that invites him to that to kind of open his eyes about, you know, this is in Vault-Tec's interest to have this war, to have a nuclear bomb go off so they can make money for their shelters.
It's really interesting because Charles is talking about how everything is becoming a product and commodified. And I love the parallels with our current world because, you know, like it's like as the world changes and these businesses and companies get more and more powerful, and like it starts to blur the lines of power. And so I think that's really interesting. And I feel like whenever art can imitate life like that, I think it always resonates more with people. And I definitely feel like they are setting up something that's really, there's a part of me that's like, I want to watch a show about all that stuff happening in the past because I feel like that's really interesting. So I'm curious to see how it all ends up falling apart.
Yeah. And I am curious to see how the ghoul became the ghoul, because we're assuming that he lost all these jobs from I think that's where he was starting. He lost all these jobs from taking on Vault-Tec and being sponsored by Vault-Tec. And so at some point, like you're saying, either he separated from his wife, although why he would have the child doesn't make sense to me, because at that point she was like, I am doing this for us. I feel like she would have made sure she had the daughter. So that either something happened to her, you know, like Vault-Tec did something, and that's a mystery. But yeah, I want to see what happens with that. And at one point too, like when we're back to the ghoul in present day, and he's been talking to the so-called president that the sheriff's brought him to, Saul, yeah, the government. Saul says, maybe you're still looking for her. And so I'm assuming that's either his wife or his daughter. And maybe one of them is cryogenically frozen. I don't know.
I feel like you might be right. Although like they were so close to those nuclear bombs. I feel like I don't know how the ghoul is still alive. So if his daughter is still alive after being hit with some nuclear blast, I'm like, that would be absolutely wild. So maybe it's his wife. I don't know. I'm interested to see. I do love in that scene when one of the goons is like, my daddy used to live in Philly. The ghoul's like, not no more. I love that character, and like Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy and some of the other people who worked on Fallout used to work on Westworld, RIP to a real one. And I love the like similarities between the ghoul and Cooper and like the Man in Black and William in Westworld. I feel like those characters are really similar.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody loves a good cowboy, so
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of Val Kilmer and Tombstone too. I love that
Oh
character.
yeah.
I'll be your Huckleberry.
was he Doc Holliday in that, or was he? Hell
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
cool. Oh man.
We learn that Vault 4 is the vault that's being run by scientists. We hear that in the ad, and then we see that towards the end of the episode, which is when Lucy sees a video of that woman giving birth to a bunch of fish that then begin to eat her, and then we see all these cryo frozen people. So yeah.
Intense. Yeah. when Lucy was sneaking around and then she made some noise and she threw the acid on the guy, I was like, oh, she's gonna get caught. She's gonna get caught. I love that and then it just cuts to Maximus, her only hope, and he's just like eating popcorn, watching the like a waterfall. He's so enthralled by all of the amenities and comforts, the little creature comforts in the vault. So
yeah, I love that flip like of their stances where she's like, we're safe now, you relax, and at first he's like, what are you talking about, this this is a cult, and then by the end he's in his robe and he's like, but they gave me a robe and slippers.
Right, it's so ironic that he's like, this is a cult. Yeah. Oh man.
Which gets thrown around a lot in this episode too, because when Cooper is meeting with his buddy and the guy's telling him about, come to the meeting, Cooper's like, that's a cult. They're talking a lot about cults in this episode.
And his friend tells him Vault-Tec's a cult.
We see that ritual, the surface dweller ritual down in Vault 4 that Lucy at first was like taking part of. I love that scene. She's going along, and then they start undressing, and she's like, well, I'm not going to do that, but maybe I'll unzip like slightly.
I was like, at first when she was in the hallway and she asked the guy what's happening, he's like, it gets a little rowdy for me. I was like, oh, it's an orgy. But
why are they worshiping, Flame Mother, this lady?
I don't know.
Like,
I'm
what
curious.
is its story here?
I'm curious why like Vault 4 sees her as some kind of like some sort of like savior or shepherd figure, like religious figure. But then she attacked Vault 33 and blew up Vault 32. And so I'm like, I wonder if this is all part of Vault-Tec's like plan or like part of the experiments with the vaults. So
but Vault 32, they were saying that had already happened pretty much when they got there, the Raiders.
Oh, that's right. The Raiders did say that they didn't kill the people in Vault 32.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
So what did she want?
How does Lucy's mom fit into all of this, I wonder?
I don't know.
There's only 2 episodes left.
Where did she go?
Yeah. I'm so curious to see what's going to happen, but I love this show, and I can't wait to find out what happens next.
Me too. I'm excited. It's so much fun. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're at Take This TV on Instagram and TikTok. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to leave us a review. And remember, it's dangerous to watch TV alone.